Well, hello everyone. I have to tell you, I'm very excited to have an opportunity to talk to you about, over the next 15 minutes, about some wonderful lessons that I have learned from my father, who, by the way, is in the audience right there. Hello, Mr. Bigelow. And I would be remiss if I didn't say I learned a lot of lessons from my mother as well, who's also right there. But that would be another TEDx. Before I talk about, my mother goes, thank you. Before I share some of the lessons, though, that I've learned from my father, I do just want to start out by saying that I think we all know this. There's lessons out there for us to learn every single day. I'm going to share with you a few of the ones that I've had, but there's lessons every single day if we're open to listening to them, if we're looking for them, and we're really trying to challenge ourselves to learn not just from the things that we like, but the things that we don't like, and how can we challenge ourselves to be the best we can every day. But again, before I talk about some of the lessons that I've learned, and I've learned so many, I've just chosen 3. I also just want you to know a little bit about myself. I did grow up in this area, and as you heard, I went to Boston College many, many moons ago. I worked for Joseph E. Seagram's selling liquor. That was very, very fun. Then I went to Kellogg, as you heard, and then I started working full-time at Bigelow Tea, and I do have to say, and you heard some of the statistics, it is a real gem. It is a blessing to be able to give a family business and to be able to be the steward of that family business and understand how important it is. I mean, we have 400 families that depend on us to do the right thing every single day. We have to get 2 billion bags out a year, and we are fortunate to be the #1 specialty tea. But it really is something that I think about a lot. Again, it is a topic for another day, but really the gift that I was given from my parents to run this business. I'm going to take you back to 1986, when I started full-time at Bigelow Tea, which gives you a little bit about my age. Do not calculate that, please. Anyway, so it was 1986. I was the cost accountant. I got the first PC in the company. I had the MBA. I was feeling kind of special about myself, and I was working on bill of materials, and I was going to work on MRP system, and I was feeling kind of proud. And it was the first week my father came in to visit me. And I'm really excited to share with him some of the stuff I was going to be doing. And he kind of looked a little off. And I said, gee, Dad, is something wrong? And he said, well, yeah, I was coming in to say hello to you. And there's an outbasket out there on the way in, and I saw you had some envelopes in there. And I said, oh, yeah, I brought some envelopes in. They were bills. I thought the company could mail them. And he said, wow, yeah, but they don't have any stamps on them. I said, well, I thought the company could put stamps on them. He says, well, Cindy, if you don't put stamps on your envelopes, why should the rest of the employees go put stamps on theirs? So why don't you go get those envelopes and go put some stamps on them? And he walked out the room. I was like, oh my God, what just happened there? And I had to say, my head was spinning. But to think about it, right? A stamp, how little? How little, it's a stamp. Don't I have other things to worry about than a stamp? But you know what he was messaging to me? Cindy, people are watching. You're a role model. He was obviously also messaging to me about fairness. You can put a stamp on yours, young lady, go get it. But he was really just saying that we are role models. We have to remember, and I needed to start early, week 1. What a lesson. I don't know if he came in to exactly tell me that, but in week 1, he was basically saying, people are watching you. People watch, whether it's inside a family business, outside of family business, whatever you're doing, people, they see. They get it. You're influencing all those around you. And especially for me as a family member, I'm setting the bar for acceptable behavior. And I needed to learn that early on. And I've thought a lot about that since. And I tell my leadership all the time, my leadership team, guys, you don't have and gals, you do not have the luxury of a bad day. And they look at me and they go, wait, what does that mean? I said, you don't have a luxury of a bad day. You don't get to come in and bring in whatever is happening that's really troubling or you can't have these kind of actions that are inappropriate. Not that we're perfect. Believe me, I have that covered. Not that we don't make mistakes. Believe me, I have that covered. But we have to pick ourselves up and remember we are influencing those around us. And I like to tell my team that think of yourself as a drop of water going into a very smooth pond. You drop one in, you get 1 ring, 2 ring, 3 ring, and you know what? That ring can influence all the way how they go back into their family. And you need to remember that all of us are doing that. We are influencing those around us. So that lesson was very powerful over something so small as a stamp, but it has stayed with me, and it is something that I have really tried to do and live both inside the business and outside the business. 2, lesson I learned that I didn't even know at the time. And I would call it that, I guess I would say I had the luxury of safe family time, safe family space. I felt like I was a priority. I was very, very, very blessed. I realized how fortunate I was. I had dinner with my parents every single night. They were home for me to have dinner with them. I had a dad who taught me how to ride a chopper. Remember the old chopper, Dad? I had a dad that taught me how to ski. I know how fortunate that is, but it taught me how to do a sport. I have parents to this day that if I am a little tired and it's a long drive and I'm a little worried where I am or whatever, I give them a call. He and my mom right by his side, they stay on the phone with me until I get to where I'm going. And I started to really process that when it was my turn to have a family. And I started to think about, whoa, how am I going to balance this family and career thing? Gee, for some reason, he was running a business and he always made me feel like a priority. And I wanted to do the same thing, but how? The times were so different, right? And he was raising me, even when I raised my kids and when the next generation is going to raise theirs. But I really said, wait a minute, I want that. I want that priority feeling for my kids. And so I had to come up with my own tools in order to do that. I came up with 3: scheduling, dinner time, and the phone. And I'm going to share you just quickly on that. First of all, scheduling. No disrespect to the men. I think women are very good at scheduling, so I just put everything in my calendar. So if I wanted to do a Wednesday once a month reading in the classroom or once a month art in the classroom, I just scheduled everything because I wanted that same feeling. No matter what I needed to do, my father and my mother were always right by my side. So I scheduled everything, and once I scheduled it, it was locked and loaded. The other thing was at dinner time, right? I told you how lucky I was to have dinner. I liked that. I thought that was important. And so I worked so hard with my kids to make sure they knew how much I wanted to have dinner with them. And I remember one time in high school, and it's harder in high school to have dinner with kids. It gets a lot more challenging. But the kids knew how much I wanted to have dinner with them. So one night my son calls me and he says, Mom, I'm really starving. Can I just have dinner? Now, I could have easily said, sure, go have dinner. What difference does it make? It's one dinner, right? But I said, no. I want him to know how important it is for me that I want to have dinner. So I begged him. I said, don't eat. I'll be right home. And I drove home and we had dinner. I don't remember what we talked about. I don't remember when it was. And I guarantee you he doesn't remember. And I just wanted him to know that it was important to me. It was important to me that I wanted to have dinner with him. And that was the message that I was trying to give him, that I had learned when I was having dinner with my parents. And the last thing is that famous phone. I guarantee you almost every one of us have a phone on us right now, maybe even 2. But I knew I had this tool, I guess I will say, that I could maybe use to my advantage. And so everyone knows that no matter what I'm doing, except for right now I don't have my phone on me, I always would pick up the phone for just my kids. Sorry, Mom, not my parents. But for my kids, I always picked up the phone. And everyone at the office knew that. And I'll share one little story of how this sort of worked. I was interviewing a young woman who I really wanted to work for us. I knew she could get a job anywhere, and I wanted her to work for our company because I knew she was going to bring some great things. So we're having this interview, and things are going well. I'm feeling a really good rhythm between us. And all of a sudden, the phone rings. I look and I go, oops, it's my daughter. So I said, excuse me, just 1 minute. Hi, Megan, how you doing? Great, everything good? Good, great, yeah? Okay, can I call you back? Sure. Boom. I sit down, I apologize with this woman, and I go, oh my God, I am so sorry about that. But, I try to be there when my kids call, and then we start again. I said, hope we'll pick up. And we pick up, and things are going great. Phone rings again. I go, hold on, it's my son. Hi, honey, how's it going? Everything good? Great. That's awesome, sweetie. Do you mind if I just call you back in like a little bit? And he said, no problem, I hang up. So I sit down with her, and I say, bad news, good news. Bad news is I've interrupted our interview twice. I'm hoping we're going to be able to get that rhythm going again. I really have to apologize. Good news is I only have 2 children. So when she actually took the job, I said to her within a week or 2 of working for me, I said, look, I want to just say I'm really kind of sorry about that interruption twice when we were in our interview process. And she said, stop right there. I took that job because of those phone calls, because you showed me that family was first. So I was like, wow. So I'm just telling you, whatever your tools are going to be that you're going to need to make your family a priority, I knew I wanted to find them because I wanted to have that same safe family time and that priority that my parents made me feel. Last lesson. Ah, gosh, again, so interesting as I was growing up. Everything I did, my father had such wonderment with. Like he'd just never seen anything like it. Everything was great. Well, except for one time. You might remember this, Mom. I came home from high school late and you looked at Dad and said, "Your daughter's home?" Yeah, that was not a good night. But besides that one night, maybe a few more of those. But he made me feel so good. And I happened to like to be a good student, whatever. And every time I'd bring home my report card, my father would be like, "Oh my God, I've never seen a report card like this before. I would only get C's. You're amazing with this report card." And he just had this like way of making me feel so proud about this report card. Now, I did say to myself, how did a guy that go to Yale only get C's? But I let it go. That's whatever. So fast forward a few years ago, my father wins a Lifetime Achievement Award at his high school. And I'm just going to give you a little background on the high school. When the Depression hit, my grandmother and grandfather on my father's side had lost everything. They had no money. And so my grandmother, Ruth Campbell, who actually started Bigelow Tea, she was very big into education. And so she called a school of an upstate Connecticut private boys' school, and she got my father to be able to go for free. That's pretty amazing. So now he's in an all-boys private school. You can imagine, maybe a little competitive, probably an interesting environment to be in. He's there. So we're up at the school, and we're learning a little bit about who my father was. And I'm actually hearing things for the first time that I'd never heard from him. And we learn that my father had been unanimously, that's a hard word to say, unanimously chosen by the administration and the student body as the top student, top athlete who embodied the principles of the school. Top student? I said to myself, top student? This is a man that every time I brought home a report card, you made him sing he'd never had anything like it. I'm sure there were maybe one C on that report card. But boy, did that teach me the value of building pride in others. And that's what I wanted to do for my kids and for those around me. I wanted to build pride in them like he had made me so proud of everything I did. And also humility. Talk about humility. He taught me the value of trying, and that's all I can try to do. Live my life humbly. And I will be honest. It is not easy in the position I'm in and the circles that I am to have others around me that I really think sort of represent that humility that I really feel is so important. But I strive every day. I work so hard to do that. So the lessons that I've learned from my father, well, they have lasted a lifetime, right? A little stamp. How we are really all need to remember the little things. They make a difference. We are all role models. Really, and how do you find out what your priorities are? And if it's your family time like it was for my parents, what are the tools that you need? And lastly, how do you build pride in others? And how do you live a life of humility? As I said at the beginning, there are lessons everywhere around us. And some of those lessons, well, they're not so good, but they're still great teachers. And how do we stay open? And how do we challenge ourselves to be the best we can? As I said from the very beginning, we are all role models. Every minute of the day, you are influencing people. You have the powerful gift to do good. Your actions matter. You have the power to make a room better by just being you. So I ask you to think about, as time rolls on, time marches down, what are the lessons that you want people to say that they learned from you? Thanks, guys, for letting me share some amazing lessons about amazing man.